Hey there, it's JohnBurry555, and Season 18 of Jetlag the Game is now airing. Obviously, this video should have been out on Wednesday to correspond with when the episode dropped on YouTube, because that's when I'm going to release my reviews, or at least these short reviews. But anyhow, Episode 1, hard questions, I believe, but basically the first one, we introduced to the mechanics, how the flop that they're using, how they get to choose which state they go to claim, but it's not like in Battle for America where they could go wherever they want. No, they have to go to a state that's on one of the cards that are in the flop. A neat mechanic they also have is that there's a private card, which means you have that state, you can go claim it at any time, but the other team doesn't know, which I think is a very neat way of doing it. I think it could definitely have some pretty interesting effects, probably definitely later in the game. Of course, that is not all. They also have wild cards. Now, I think there might be more wild cards reviewed in episode 2, which I haven't watched yet, but in episode 1, probably the craziest wild card, Canada, is reviewed, and I honestly love how they did basically a apology, whether it's real or not, but basically for because it's an America game, but they're going to Canada. Don't know if they actually will make it to Canada, because I again haven't seen episode 2. But I like the idea that Canada is a wild card that allows you to connect any state, because only connected states count to your total, which I think is a very interesting thing. Though I do wonder, I think it would have been more interesting if Canada was in play from the get-go, and you have in the 10 provinces and 3 territories were also in play. So in Puerto Rico and all that. Though I guess islands will be kind of hard to claim in general. But that's not the point. The point I'm just getting at is I think it would have been neat just to include Canada from the get-go. 15 American states, 10 Canadian provinces, and both countries' territories. Could have been interesting. But I can understand why they did it this way, because it's an America game and it's a wild card, not a state card, which, even though it comes up that way, it behaves as a wild card because it allows you to do things that you normally would not have been able to do, which makes it very interesting from the perspective of a wild card, which is supposed to be more so a wrench into the plans. Same thing the private cards, so a wrench into potential plans. And both teams, of course, begin. And speaking of the teams, Ben and Adam, as always, they go claim Tennessee. Yeah, I was combining words together. And then Sam and Amy go to claim Illinois. And if you don't know Amy, she's been mentioned before. She's a wonderful employee. She's done a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff for Stateside Scramble, and she was also in the hide-and-seek New York half season that they did as well. But this is her first full-on season, and I think that's very neat because many of us have been wanting to see her actually participate in the game, and we got that taste with hide-and-seek New York, and I think a lot of us, especially if you go into the Reddit, have been pushing for a bit more to say hey, we want more Amy, and we're finally getting that. And of course they claim Illinois, and Amy knows the meme. So if you don't know, there's basically a meme, the Con Knight of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker is a great con kind of deal, and when they claimed Illinois and Sam and Amy called Ben, she said that they've claimed the great Con Knight of Illinois, since she knows the memes. She pretty much states that she's from Illinois, Chicago, so of course she's going to know the memes. But I just love that. How well the other characters were that? I don't know. Because there's very much an online meme kind of thing. There's a lot of Illinoisans who don't know the meme because they're not online. But I just love that meme is referenced. Probably most people didn't even pick up on it, but to those of us who know the meme, I'm so happy that we get to see it. And also, seeing places I'm vaguely familiar with, that part of Chicagoland is not my stomping grounds, but still, I'm vaguely familiar with some of that stuff. Know what drains look like for sure, yep, there's Metra. And the challenge involving a train as well, where you have to play 20 questions basically on the train, yes and no answers. And basically what the answer is, Amy pretty much guessed right off the bat, but in playing the game itself, did not get into the third or fourth question. Honestly, her first question was really good. It eliminated a lot of weird stuff, kind of stuff that Illinois is known for. Probably then I would have asked Lincoln or sports related is my second question if I was her, kind of deal. But hey, I'm not her. I wasn't playing the game. But the fact that, she knew what the potential answers were going to be. She predicted all the answers correctly. Because they had a set amount of answers that Sam could think of. And she predicted it correctly because she knows the state. And honestly, she got it correct. And of course, Ben and Adam had the more harder challenge. Eating hot chicken and answering questions, even though the questions are fairly easy. More hard challenge, it feels like. Probably mostly because, hot chicken is spicy. And then the challenge in Mississippi, which is near the end, was also more challenging as well. Just because, you have to deal with water. Yeah. Overall, it was a good episode. I had a fun time enjoying it. I can't wait for episode 2, so I hope to see you then. Yeah, I know I recorded this vertical. Probably is going to end up horizontal, but hey, who cares? This is my extra channel. It's for me, messing around. Anyhow, I hope you had a good time watching this. Let me know your thoughts on Jedi the Game, Stateside Scramble in the comment section. And, well, hopefully episode 2 continues up. And yes, I'm doing minimum editing for this because extras. Hey there, it's JohnBerry555, and I just finished watching the second episode of Jetlag the Game Stateside Scramble. Yes, this video is, and on face this video, it's going to be easier for this week to do it that way. But anyhow, this episode was a nice continuation of it. I love the new wild card that was introduced in this episode, where they can use a national park to claim a state. Very useful wild card, and they showed a few of the others, so it behaves similarly to Canada, though Canada, you claim the entirety of Canada for the purpose of the game. But I remember the survey being put out that Sam posted on Instagram when they were filming this season, and so I know exactly where they're going. In fact, that's set up in this episode. They're going to St. Louis for the Gateway Arch, which should not be a national park. National Historical Park maybe, but not an actual national park. That's just my personal opinion on that. It's a designation thing, yada yada. It's still a neat site and all, but I don't know if it doesn't have any of the natural resources that most national parks are associated with. So it has lots of history, but not much nature. But anyhow, it also made me think, what other parks could you go to? Because the thing is, take a picture at an iconic landmark in the park and then it has to be identifiable. And let's be real, the Gateway Arch is one of the easiest parks for that to work with. Because some of the others, like Congaree, which Ben and Adam were somewhat new because it was in South Carolina, they were in Georgia at the time. You know what? That one wouldn't be too bad either, because I think that's very distinct. But they also mentioned Mammoth Cave, because I wasn't too far from them as well. But it's a cave. Someone could either think it's Carlsbad, Wind Cave, especially if they don't know the different national parks. Those are the main. There's also Jewel Cave, but that's not technically considered as a national monument. But Carlsbad, Wind, and Mammoth. Those are the 3 caves. Sure, if you give the right location, you can clearly identify. And there's certainly iconic locations, but are they as iconic as the Gateway Arch? Grand Canyon could have been a good one too. Something like Yosemite or Yellowstone or Redwoods probably would be easily identifiable. But Badlands National Park, Theodore Roosevelt National Park, unless you really know the difference between your Badlands, you may not be able to tell them apart. Arches, obviously you would probably do the Delicate Arch, that's iconic, but the Gateway Arch is probably the most clearly cut iconic park. There's no way when you take a picture there that you could somehow, at least the majority of people could somehow misunderstand which park it has and choose the wrong one, because it is literally the most iconic landmark in most national park sites. There's certain other very iconic, but it's distinct, very distinctive. Okay, I've gone on long enough about that, but I also love how Adam and Ben almost missed their flight out of Atlanta because they went to the Coca-Cola Museum and they got it lost in traffic by making a wrong turn. I just love that. It just makes things just that more interesting. And then I gotta say, they're getting way too good at using their body parts to measure things, because Sam and Amy successfully measured a covered bridge in New Hampshire, and they guessed it on the nose. They're just getting too good with that. They're gonna have to get rid of these measurement challenges. They're getting too good at it. But yeah, like I said, lots of fun stuff. I think I did like episode 1 so far better. I think it was just a little bit stronger of an episode. But we gotta see, of course, how things will end up going and developing for the series as a whole. So, I'm going to leave you guys with the comment section so you guys can share what you thought of episode 2, which, by the way, was, I forget actually what his name is because it's not stated on YouTube. But regardless what it's actually called, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my review of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hey there, it's JohnBerry555, and today let's talk about the 3rd episode of Stateside Scramble, which is season 18 of Jetlag the Game. The episode is given the title, It's 5 o'clock everywhere, and which is obviously an allusion to the phrase, It's 5 o'clock somewhere, because this is the episode where Ben gets drunk. And literally, the summoner literally has Drunk Ben returns. And most of this actually occurs during the rest period, because they decided that because of when they did their challenge, which was to get a team member drunk on Kentucky bourbon, was that, well, it's at the end of game day, people want to see Drunk Ben, so let's just hang out in Paducah doing some stuff and showing off Drunk Ben, and that's what they did. And in all honesty, I just love that as a creative decision making for the episode. Personally, I don't like drinking and people getting drunk and all that, but I will admit, from a creative standpoint, say, you know what? No stakes now, we're in the rest period. Yeah, why not? And you know what? It actually worked. And also, can I say something? I think Ben is basically just the epitome of a happy drunk. No matter what he does, he's happy. It just, every time this occurs, this is just what it seems like. But anyhow, like obviously expected with Ben and Adam's decision to go to the Gateway Arch to claim Missouri and take a picture to identify a landmark, they obviously got it correct. 1, because I actually voted in the poll and I got that and I knew which national park was, but 2, some national parks don't have as many iconic locations or they got similar locations, like based off of where they were in the country. Yeah, maybe if they went to South Carolina for Congress, that would have been pretty distinct. There's not too many parks with swamps like that. But like if they went up to Kentucky for Mammoth Cave, I don't know, that would have been a bit harder to pull off. I mean, yeah, there's some iconic locations in Mammoth Cave, but the thing is, if you don't know Mammoth Cave, you might just guess Carlsbad, Wind Cave, if you don't know the distinctiveness of each cave system. Indiana Dunes, okay, people might have guessed that because of Dunes from, oh man, that would have been the first, that would have been Battle for America. That was many seasons ago. But yeah, I'm going on and on about this one thing, but it was a very smart decision on which park they chose, because sure, there's another famous park with an arch that's called Arches National Park, but man, does the Delicate Arch look very different than the Gateway Arch. And they actually did express in the episode my same things, like, why is it a national park? Yeah, historical park maybe, but there's like no natural features that park is protecting, so it's missing one of those categories. But you know what? It's all political. No, seriously, national parks have to be designated by Congress, and so that does sadly put a political spin to a park getting designated, especially I feel like nowadays, where every state wants to have a national park, it seems like. Which I can understand why, but we're getting off track from here and there. But I gotta say, this episode, they get some pretty bad pulls for Sam and Amy in this episode for cards, because every card pull kept on being near where Ben and Adam are, which is good for them, not so good for Sam and Amy, though. I definitely doing 1% for the minimum Massachusetts, doing 1% of Power Review's route while holding a lemon between their legs. It was pretty hilarious. And also, too, it looks like they're going to be in St. Louis at the same time, briefly, based on what we see at the end of the episode, as Ben and Adam are returning to St. Louis to drop off the rental cars and fly where they need to go next. While Sam and Amy were struggling to find good connecting flights based on what states are available and to connect to what they are to claim. Sure, they have the private cars for Washington State, which sure, but they did pull another private card in this episode at the start of the new game day that we see in this episode, and that brings Iowa into the board for them. So they are flying into St. Louis hoping they can get Iowa and then hop over and get South Dakota, which that would make a chain with Illinois and Minnesota, North Dakota, would be enough to connect it up to Canada and the rest of and that means connecting up to Vermont and Massachusetts for them. That would be a pretty, if they get lucky with some carpools, but they've not been lucky so far. Because after all, the carpools near the end of the episode were Oklahoma and Alabama. Not really beneficial for them. So yeah, overall, great episode. I enjoyed it. I do feel like episodes 1 and 2 were slightly stronger, just in terms of gameplay and all that, and more, some of the more creative decisions in playing, I think, were done in previous episodes. Well, this episode felt more like it was just finishing up from what we saw in the last episode and setting up the next episode. And that's alright, because we do need these episodes to connect things together. Because while they don't script anything else, so at least they say they don't, they're still going to cut things in a way that's going to be more interesting. And sometimes you gotta cut things to connect things up. Does that make sense? Because I hope it does, because this is what I'm ending my review of It's 5 o'clock everywhere. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hey there, it's JohnBerry555, and I finished watching Jetlag the Game, Season 18, Stateside Scramble. So, you probably noticed I did not post reviews of the previous 2 episodes. Well, that's because of 2 reasons. 1, I lost my voice one of those weeks. 2, I was too tired that week just to make any videos. You notice on all my channels I almost basically took 2-3 weeks off. Try not to do that, but sometimes things happen, and you just have to take care of yourself. But anyhow, let's actually talk about Stateside Scramble now that the series is over. There will be spoilers in this video. So, 1, the game was pretty close. I do think, okay, let's just say who won. Adam and Ben won, but I do think Sam and Amy could have won if, and this is a big if Adam and Ben missed their flight to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I mean, it was close. And in all honesty, if this wasn't the final episode, Adam running up right before seeing taking boat would have been a perfect place for it to end an episode. If this had happened early in the game and not near the end. And all that. So, it would have been the perfect point for a cliffhanger ending for an episode. But that's too late in the game to do it. And that is what allowed Adam and Ben to take the lead, making that last minute connection. And if they had missed that, Sam and Amy would have been able to get Maine and then get to Rhode Island in time for them to claim it, and that would have tied up the game, I believe, if I remember the math. Or if they got lucky and Connecticut had gotten drawn as well. But basically, if Ben and Adam hadn't made it, or if they also failed the Margaritaville challenge, that would have also have done it as well. But alas, that's not how the game went out. And one thing I think I reflected on some of the other videos, I'll be sure to put all of these together as one big compilation. But normally in Jedi the Game, I'm typically rooting for Adam or Ben, or both of them whenever they're on the same team, like in this one. But this is actually the first season that I actually was rooting for Sam. Typically doesn't happen with me. Partially that's because of the dynamic that was set up earlier in Jedi, way back in the first couple seasons, where Sam was played much more of a heel, so you were naturally more storytelling-wise wanting to root for Ben and Adam as more underdogs. I think the reason why I started rooting for Sam back then to Amy is 1, because we don't see much of Amy, but whenever we do in Jedi, great. But also 2, they had a lot of unfortunate luck in this game. A lot of bad luck at the start of the game. In the first half of the game with the cards pulled that just made it so hard for them to catch up. And we could see that throughout the rest of the game, that they were constantly playing catch up. Granted, the Canada wildcard was a huge boon for them, but that wasn't enough good luck to overcome all the other bad luck that they had in this season. But I think largely because this is the first season where Sam was clearly the underdog because of that bad luck is why I ended up rooting for Sam and Amy, because it was so clear that they were facing a lot of bad luck. While Adam and Ben, I wouldn't call it good luck, because they've had great luck, good luck before, except for, well, the flight in the last episode, of course. But that was amazing good luck. But normally they have, their thing is they do maybe get some bad luck, or more accurately, they're able to, they have good luck that pulls victory from a almost hopeless situation, for lack of a better description. But here it was just kind of more run-of-the-mill for them. Like, they had decent connections, like everything was going good for them. Not, I wouldn't call it spectacular, not until this most recent episode, episode 6, where they made it to the flying time. That's like the luck that we're normally used to seeing out of Ben and Adam. So that makes it more interesting. You know, they're getting good luck, but they were just getting okay luck for most of the season, and then they got this great piece of luck at the end that allowed them to secure the victory. Meanwhile, Sam and Amy had, like I said, all this bad luck at the beginning, and the kind of bad luck that makes for a great underdog and great television. Yes, this is not technically television per se, but come on, it's the same kind of genre. You get this underdog character that's being developed through a series of unfortunate events, a series of bad luck. Of course you're going to want them to win. Sadly, that's not what happened for Sam and Amy. Mathematically, they did the math and they found they couldn't do it. Yeah, they could have gone they would need to give Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Vermont. And was it all and Connecticut and Vermont were not Vermont, New Hampshire, were not in play yet? Yeah, no wonder they decided no, just to concede. I still think it would have been fun to try to claim Rhode Island just because why not, as a last ditch hurrah, so they could get Connecticut, but they still would have needed to get New Hampshire, and that just was not in the cards for them based off of time left in the game and the odds. Just, they would have not been able to, like, just driving time alone they determined was not enough. And that's the way it ended up being. I also got to mention that, how did they get jet lag in? Well, of course. Well, Adam and Ben ended the game in the same time zone they started. Daylight savings time was in effect, so they used that to get them to say that there's jet lag, which I thought was a great way. And also for the trophy, they called back to the challenge where Amy and Sam had to make a butter sculpture, so it was a butter trophy. I really like that. That was very clever. And then have it slide down the Atlantic coast all the way down to Myrtle Beach where Ben and Adam were. Honestly, that was really great. Is there more I can say? Certainly, without a doubt. Honestly, I could talk more about the 2 episodes I missed my reviews of. And honestly, I probably should, but I won't, because I got a lot of videos to catch up on, and so I'm going to work on those. So stay tuned. I don't know when the next video will drop on this channel. Probably when season 19 of Jetlag the Game drops as well. That's probably when I'm going to. There's some other oddball things I'm going to try to do. I got some videos that I took while hiking that I'll probably post as well at some point. But on my main channel, I got some more Star Wars content planned, so keep an eye out for that. I know that the 9th Jedi is coming out soon as a series, so that's going to be fun. And then in September, we're going to be resuming my 10th anniversary watches over there of Star Wars Rebels. So stay tuned for all that stuff over there. This video is obviously going to have the link in the description to my main channel, and also my retro reviews for classic TV shows. Took a break from those as well. Don't worry, they're going to get back up. Probably not this week, but probably next week. So stay tuned for all that, and let me know your thoughts on Jetlag the Game, Stateside Scramble in the comment section down below.